I lay stretched out on the small sofa in my newly rented apartment on the east side of Atlanta, one hand holding a cup of hot tea, the other resting on my forehead as if trying to shake off the dizziness from a flood of text messages. My phone screen blinked on the coffee table. Calls from Mom, Dad, and even Brandon, my brother. The same three names flashed over and over like an endless loop, as if one more second of silence from me would make the phone explode from sheer overload. 6 months. 6 months since I walked out of that house. No arguments, no tears, not even the dramatic slam of a door. I quietly packed a few clothes, my old laptop, and my finance notebook into a faded duffel bag, then stepped outside just as the sun dipped behind the buildings across the street. No one stopped me. No one asked where I was going. No one imagined I wouldn't come back. They were used to Deanna, the easygoing daughter, the reliable one, always paying the utility bills in a pinch. I was the invisible fixer behind every financial mess in the family, the one who stepped in whenever Brandon lost another job or Mom and Dad forgot their payment deadline on a new set of furniture. I used to think I was strong, that doing all that was right, that it was my duty. But now, in this tiny apartment just big enough for me and the silence, I finally understood. For nearly 10 years, I'd been keeping alive a system I never built. A system where I was the only one running while everyone else just... The phone vibrated again. I didn't need to look to know it was Mom. I could already hear the start of the message in my head. How could you do this to your family? Ending with, if you still care about us, call back right now. I didn't pick up. Didn't even reach for the phone. I just leaned my head back, took a deep breath, and felt my chest grow a little lighter with every passing second. My name is Deanna Miller. I'm 28, a financial analyst who earned a full scholarship to Georgia State University. I used to believe that if I just worked hard enough, stayed out of trouble, kept my head down, I'd be recognized. But the truth is, the more I did, the less I mattered. And the one time I stopped, just once, the phone lit up like a fire alarm fire. Brandon, 32, dropped out after 2 years of art school, worked as a barista, a delivery driver, then went unemployed again. But he was the one with potential, the dreamer, the one Mom hugged when he failed and Dad defended like a war hero returning from battle. And me? The one who never left a trail of debt, never ruined a single plan, never asked for anything, somehow ended up being the ungrateful one. I remember the day I left. Mom was watching her favorite TV show. Dad had his eyes glued to the car insurance spreadsheet, and Brandon was stretched out on the couch with his gaming console. No one noticed me walking past with a bag. No one asked why I wasn't dressed for work. Not a single, "Where are you going?" And now, after 6 months of silence, they're trying to reach me. Like I'm the lifeline they tossed aside and suddenly want back. I glanced at the phone again, still buzzing. I didn't turn it off, just let it ring. Every vibration felt like proof that I had finally broken free of the invisible rope that had bound me for a decade. And for the first time in my life, freedom smelled like a quiet afternoon where every sound belongs only to me. I started working at 16, not to buy cute clothes or hang out at coffee shops like my friends, but because I knew if I didn't take care of myself, no one else would. While my classmates were getting picked up by their parents, I rode my bike 4 blocks to a pastry shop to wipe tables and mop floors, then biked home after dark. I used my first paycheck to buy a secondhand computer, the only thing that helped me keep up with classwork. No one asked if I needed help. No one asked if I was sleeping enough or if I'd had dinner. But when Brandon needed a new laptop, despite dropping out, Mom had no problem opening a credit card and buying him a brand new MacBook, saying he needs it to restart his life. I was used to that upside-down logic. When I did right, it was expected. When Brandon messed up, it was because he was trying. Brandon's 4 years older than me, but if you looked at how things played out in our home, you'd think I was the older sibling. He always had an excuse, always got understood. When he quit his bookstore job because the boss was too controlling, Mom instantly defended him. No one can survive a toxic environment. When he misplaced the car Dad had just fixed, the first thing Dad said was, "Accidents happen." Me. When I got a full ride to Georgia State, the only response was, "Couldn't you pick a school closer to home? Brandon might need the car." When I got hired by the biggest investment consulting firm in the area, Mom just said, "That's so far. He'll take us to our doctor's appointments." I honestly can't remember the last time they said they were proud of me. Maybe they never have. I used to think if I just kept working hard, kept proving myself, they'd eventually see. But the more I did, the more I became just a walking wallet when they wanted to repaint the house. "Could you help a bit?" When Brandon wanted to sign up for an online art class, "Diana, could you front it for now and we'll settle up later?" At first, I thought it was just temporary money trouble. I agreed to help here and there, but here and there turned into everything, from electric bills, appliance repairs, to gas money for Dad's car. I sent the money regularly, no thank yous. Just more asks. "This month's a bit tight, can you add a little more?" I tried to stay quiet, told myself I was helping, that families should stick together, but every time I came home, after grinding through weeks of work, I'd see Brandon lounging on the couch, feet on the table, gaming. Mom would be in the kitchen making his favorite dish. Dad would be telling the same story about how my son won an art contest back in 5th grade. I'm not heartless. I used to care about the smallest things. But the one thing I can no longer do is live a life where effort is invisible and failure is celebrated like a triumph. I remember one day, when I told Mom I was saving to buy my own place, she casually said something I'll never forget. "A girl buying a house on her own? Aren't you worried people will think no one wants to marry you?" I didn't answer, but that was the moment I knew. I would never earn their honest approval. Not because I wasn't good enough, but because in their eyes, Brandon would always come first. And me? I was just the backup plan when things fell apart. That truth, bitter as it was, made me stronger. 6 months ago, when I finally walked out, I didn't cry. Didn't yell. I just left, like the only person in the family who realized if I didn't save myself, I'd forever be the one holding the balance in a world tilted to someone else's side. I remember it started with a single message from Mom, late one night while I was still at the office. "Diana, we just lost power. Dad forgot to pay this month's bill. Can you help? I'll pay you back tomorrow." I didn't think twice. Sent $126.00 that night, along with a text. "Next time, remind Dad to pay a bit earlier." Of course, I never saw a dime back. Then came the water bill, the gas stove repair, supplements for Dad. Each one came with a reason that sounded so reasonable it would have felt heartless to say no. At first, I thought, it's fine. I make decent money. But that little help quickly became everything. They stopped asking, they started assigning. This week, send Brandon $200. 0 cents. He's signing up for a Photoshop class. Or, Dad just had dental work. It was pricey. Here's the bank info. I became the sole provider in a 4-person family. 2 working on and off, and 1 who gamed all day. One month, as I was preparing to submit my mortgage application for my first home, Dad called. His voice was uneasy, but firm. "Diana, we're in a bit of a bind with the bank. This house might get foreclosed if we can't find the money in the next few weeks." I went silent. That house, modest as it was where I grew up. Where I once dreamed of having my own office, before that dream was replaced by a sofa bed so Brandon could temporarily move back in. "How much do you need?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Around $980.00 a month for just maybe a few months, just until your dad and I get back on our feet." And I agreed. The first transfer happened that very night, right after I canceled the deposit on the apartment I'd been dreaming of. I ended up sending that money, not for a few months, but for almost 2 years. 2 years. Over $20,000, 0 cents total. Not including other expenses like car insurance, roof repairs, or Brandon's birthday. What made me the angriest wasn't the money. It was how they acted like it was normal. No, thank you. No one asked if I could afford it. No hesitation when asking for more. I slowly became the family bank, with zero say in the very house I was keeping from foreclosure. Brandon still didn't have a job. When I asked directly, Mom just said, "He's trying to find his path. You shouldn't pressure him." Pressure? Me? The one working 60 hours a week to cover his share, and now I'm the one creating pressure? I started quietly documenting every payment, every date, like I was keeping a debt ledger for a client who would never repay. But I never intended to ask for it back. Because I knew I never would see a dime. Every time I thought of cutting ties, another message would pop up. "Dad's back is acting up again. Can you order his meds?" Or, "The roof's been leaking all week. No one has the money to fix it." And I'd cave. Again. I'd transfer the money. Again. I'd put every personal goal on hold. Again. I started avoiding my banking app in the mornings, because just seeing the low balance made me feel like I couldn't breathe. My life was ruled by other people's bills, by the needs of those who never intended to stand on their own. I was living in a cramped rental, eating instant noodles for a week straight so I could send money to fix a door in the house Brandon used as his inspiration art studio. Then one day, standing in a convenience store, I opened my wallet and didn't have enough to buy a gallon of milk. And that's when I truly felt it. I was being drained. Completely. I used to think being strong meant carrying all the weight. But in reality, I was just sinking into a swamp called hoping they would change. And the moment I realized that, I knew I had to change first. That Sunday afternoon, it started to drizzle. I had just finished a long weekend shift, exhausted and only wanting a hot shower and warm blanket. But instead, I stopped at the store, grabbed a few bags of groceries, and drove nearly 40 minutes to my parents' house, just like I had done for 2 years straight. I walked into the kitchen, arms full of bags, salmon, vegetables, some frozen meals. As I set them down, Mom was already there, not to greet me, but to confront me. "Deanna, we need to talk." Before I could exhale, she crossed her arms, her tone sharp with drama. "We already discussed this. What you're sending every month. It's no longer enough." I froze. "Not enough? What are you talking about?" Dad stepped in from the living room, his voice low and heavy like he was delivering the evening news. "You make good money, you live alone. Meanwhile, we're struggling every day. Doesn't that seem unfair to you?" I looked at the two people who raised me and now stood there trying to convince me that their comfort was my obligation. I held my voice steady. "I've paid the mortgage for 2 years, not to mention utilities, meds, roof repairs, all that, and it's still not enough?" Brandon, sprawled out on the couch as usual, chimed in casually. "It's not like you're lacking anything. What's wrong with sharing a little?" I turned to look him dead in the eye. My 32-year-old brother, who's never paid a single bill in his life, yet somehow feels entitled to comment on what sharing means? "Sharing goes both ways, Brandon," I said, my voice colder than the rain outside. "All you ever do is take." Mom snapped. "That's enough, Diana. You're being disrespectful." I took a deep breath, chest about to explode. "I'm disrespectful for telling the truth?" Mom's lips pressed into that tight line I'd seen my whole life. The look she gave when she wanted to control everything, through sheer indignation. "If it's that much of a burden to you," she said, every word like a blade, "then you can walk out that door and don't bother coming back." Time stopped. That sentence, if only she knew how often it echoed in my mind. But this time, no one tried to stop me. No one called me the good daughter or the quiet one who sacrifices. They didn't pull me back. They just pushed me to the edge and waited to see if I'd jump. I dropped the last grocery bag on the table. Didn't even bother opening it. Didn't put anything in the fridge like I usually would. All right, I said, soft as a breeze, sharp as steel. If that's how you feel, then I hear you loud and clear. I'm leaving. I turned and walked out. My steps were heavy but certain. No one followed. No one called my name. Just Brandon muttering something behind me. Maybe, "So dramatic," or something like that. I walked out of that house empty-handed, hollow, but with my back straight. The rain soaked my hair, my clothes, but for the first time I felt light. Like the weight I had carried for years wasn't duty, it was chains. And they had finally fallen. I didn't drive straight back to my little apartment. I pulled into a quiet gas station, opened my contacts, stared at Mom, Dad, Brandon, then slowly pressed block. At that moment, I didn't know what was coming next. I couldn't picture the chaos that would unfold when they realized their personal ATM had gone silent. But I knew one thing for sure. This time, I wasn't coming back. Not out of pride, but because I had finally learned that kindness isn't infinite. And blind sacrifice only teaches people to expect you as default. My new apartment was on the 3rd floor of an old midtown building, with chipped white paint and hallways that always smelled like old wood. But to me, it was paradise. No one woke me at 6 a.m. to schedule doctor's appointments. No one texted at midnight to ask if I could front the gas bill. I no longer had to race across 3 counties with bags of food for a dinner no one touched. I moved in with just 2 suitcases and an old comforter. But the relief? Unmatched. The first 6 months after leaving home felt like learning how to breathe again. Every morning, I got up with my alarm, made coffee, opened the window, and let the light pour in. No TV blasting from the living room. No Mom's complaints. No Dad's coughing fits when I got home late. I spent weekends reading, learning new skills, and walking around Piedmont Park, where I didn't need to hold a phone to my ear for an hour listening to another emergency that somehow meant more money. I cut all financial ties. No transfers, no bill payments, no doctor appointments, no groceries. My bank account slowly steadied, and for the first time in years, I started building savings, a simple thing I never thought I'd be able to do. But that peace only lasted until month 3. It started with a text from Mom. "Diana, your dad just got a warning letter from the bank. Something's going on. Call me." I read it, set the phone down, and didn't reply. Not because I didn't care, but because I knew that something was never about health or safety. It was always about money. And sure enough, a few days later, my dad called. "We need to have a serious talk. The house situation can't be put off any longer." I didn't pick up. They called again, every single day. First, their voices were calm, then pleading, then accusatory. Mom texted, "Are you really going to abandon your parents?" Brandon left a voicemail. "You should know, this isn't a joke. Everyone's struggling." I didn't respond. The calls kept increasing week by week, like they believed if they called enough, I'd eventually cave. I changed my work number, blocked a few contacts, but I couldn't stop myself from reading the long messages, sometimes paragraphs long, accusing me of being different, heartless, cold. I wasn't cold, I was healing. Then one Monday afternoon, just as I was leaving the office, my phone lit up. It was Brandon. I didn't answer, but this time his voicemail had lost the urgency. It was sharp, accusing. "What do you think you're doing? Feeling proud of yourself? You don't get to walk away from your family just because life feels easier now. If Mom and Dad lose the house, that'll be your fault." I stood frozen in the parking lot, replaying the message 3 times. And I didn't know whether to laugh or be angry. After all those years of skipping meals, all the thousands of dollars sent without a thank you, and what I got in return was blame, I picked up my phone and slowly typed out a message. "I've covered my part, and yours, for years. If things fall apart now, maybe it's time everyone asked, who never did anything." I didn't send it. I deleted it. Because I knew no words would ever change how they saw me. To them, I was never a daughter, never a sister. I was a solution, and when the solution stopped working, all they had left was blame. I slipped my phone into my pocket and walked down the golden-lit sidewalk, feeling a little bit lighter. Later, just after stepping out of a meeting, I saw a message from Dad. "Diana, why haven't you paid the mortgage this month? The bank's pressing us now." I froze in the hallway of my office building. It wasn't shock I felt. It was a chill, like someone had poured a bucket of ice water over my head. I had stopped all financial support nearly 6 months ago. Completely. No transfers, no money talk. And yet he still messaged me, like it was just expected that I'd keep paying the mortgage. But what really got under my skin was the way he said, "pressing us now." I bit my lip. My palms started to sweat. My gut told me something was wrong. And this time, I wasn't going to guess. I was going to find out. That evening, after brewing a cup of tea, I opened my laptop and logged into the bank account I used to send mortgage payments to, the one under Dad's name. I had never checked it before. I had always trusted that once I sent the money, it would be used for what they said. I was their daughter. Why wouldn't I? I scanned through the transaction history from the past 2 years. Every payment I sent, documented, exact, matched down to the penny. But the final line made my heart nearly stop. The last mortgage payment from that account had been 8 months ago, right before I stopped helping. I blinked several times, hoping I'd misread something, but there it was, clearly listed in the bank's alert. Account overdue 8 months, total outstanding balance $6,480.00. Status, at risk of foreclosure. I pressed a hand over my mouth, trying to quiet my own breathing. What did this mean? I had continued sending money on time for 3 more months after that last payment, and they hadn't used a single dollar for the mortgage? I pulled up my personal banking app. Sure enough, almost $3,000, 0 cents, sent after the final payment. Gone. They had received it, but didn't use it, didn't explain, didn't say a word. A cold wave ran down my spine. It wasn't just disappointment. It felt like betrayal, like someone had stabbed me in the back with the very trust I gave them. I didn't call immediately. I needed more proof. The next morning, I called the bank, this time as someone who previously helped manage family payments. I calmly explained my concern that my parents might be struggling and not telling me. After some verification, the support rep confirmed. That account hasn't had a full mortgage payment since the beginning of the year. It's now under special collections. I thanked her and hung up. The world spun around me. No more doubt. The money I sent during those last months was not used for the house. So where did it go? I didn't know. But it wasn't for what they'd begged me for. That night I couldn't sleep. I left the light on, lying stiff on the couch staring at the ceiling. One question echoed in my mind. How long had they been lying to me? I thought about all the things Mom used to say. It's only temporary, honey. If it weren't for you, we'd starve. Your dad's so worried. Please help us get through this. And then I remembered the look in Brandon's eyes the day I walked out. Not regret, but fear. Not because I was leaving, but because the source was drying up. I picked up my phone and typed a message to Dad. I just spoke with the bank. They said the mortgage is 8 months overdue. I kept sending money. So what happened? No reply. Not right away. But 15 minutes later, the phone rang. Caller Dad. I didn't answer. I sat there, listening to the ringtone echo like a ghost, from a past I once blindly believed in, but now finally spoke for itself. The third call came at 10 p.m. I stared at the screen, my hands cold, my heart a storm of anger and heartbreak. I knew if I didn't pick up, they wouldn't stop. And this time I was ready to listen, but also ready to speak. I hit answer. Diana, it's Dad, his voice low and tense. So, I guess you found out about the bank. I kept my voice calm. I didn't just find out, I confirmed it. The mortgage is 8 months behind. I kept sending money, so... Where did it go? He paused, then sighed. I know you're angry, but it's not what you think. I gave a bitter half smile. Not what I think? I sent money for the house. The house didn't get paid for. What part of that isn't what I think? That's when Mom grabbed the phone. Diana, don't you dare speak to your father like that, she yelled, her voice shrill, almost furious. You don't understand the situation. Everything's been falling apart since you left. I squinted. Walked away? Or was it when I stopped paying for everyone to live comfortably? You don't speak to me like that, my mom snapped. I've done everything I could. Brandon lost his job. Your father's back is acting up. The house is falling apart. And you just turned your back on us. No, Mom, I said, my voice lowering. I turned my back after you all drained every last dollar from me and still had the nerve to say it wasn't enough. I am not obligated to fund your repeated bad choices. She fell silent for a few seconds. Then her voice returned, trembling, slipping into that familiar, rehearsed sobbing. Diana, we're family. Families are supposed to help each other. I cut her off, for the first time, not letting her steer my emotions. Help has a limit, Mom, and I've been treated like a free ATM for years. Worse, the money I sent wasn't even used for what you claimed. You lied to me. The pause was so long I thought she hung up. Then Brandon's voice barged in. You're blowing this way out of proportion. They just need a little time. And you're acting like the whole world owes you something. I let out a laugh. The world doesn't, but this house definitely does. You're being selfish, Brandon hissed. You weren't like this before. I answered softly, voice like ice. Before, I was just stupid. Diana, don't talk like that. My dad came back on, his tone lower, worn down. We messed up, okay? But you're all we've got. We will pay you back. I promise. I let out a dry, joyless laugh. How many times have you promised that? Another long silence. You know, if you don't help, we could lose the house, he said. We're about to lose everything. I tightened my grip on the phone. My chest felt heavy, but my words came out clear. Then lose it. That's not my responsibility anymore. Diana, you can't. Can't what? Can't walk away after being pushed to my limit? I cut him off. I've carried this family for nearly a decade while Brandon sat around burning money and judging me. And now, the moment I stop, I'm the heartless one. Mom cried again. Brandon muttered something in her ear. Dad started pleading. But I didn't really hear them anymore. Their voices echoed like ghosts from a world I no longer belonged to. I took a deep breath. I'm done helping. Not because I'm cruel, because I've done more than enough. You all need to learn how to live without me. That's the only thing I'm leaving behind. And I hung up, not in anger, in peace. After that final phone call, I powered off my phone and left it on the table for 3 full days. No texts, no calls, no threats, no fake sobs, just silence. And I had never tasted silence so sweet. The next morning I woke up early, made myself a cup of coffee and stepped out onto the balcony, watching the city slowly wake under soft golden sunlight. My apartment was small, unremarkable, the ceiling a little low, the wooden floor creaking under my steps. But for the first time, I felt like a place truly belonged to me. No one knocking to ask for money, no one making me feel guilty for living my own life. Freedom, it turned out, wasn't loud. It was quiet, gentle, like that first breath after breaking through the surface of the water. But even silence can get scary. When night falls, when there's no more work to fill my thoughts, I start to wonder, did I go too far? I cut everything. All support, all contact. I let the house I helped save teeter on the edge of foreclosure. I left them People who once raised me to navigate the chaos alone. I used to be the backbone. Now I was the one who let go. Was I too harsh? I went back to my voicemail, the one I had been avoiding all week. A message from Mom. You'll regret this. That house means everything to me. One from Dad. We're out of options if you don't help. And Brandon, short and bitter. You're letting this family sink just because of your pride. I listened to every word, didn't skip a single one, but this time I didn't cry. I just felt tired. They always knew how to make me doubt myself. For years, they tied me down, not with chains, but with guilt, with lines like, "You're the pride of this family," or, "We'd be lost without you." But that pride was never shown as gratitude. It was just a shield they held up whenever they needed cover for a mistake they didn't want to fix. I thought about all the nights I stayed up crunching numbers for clients, only to wake up to Brandon scolding me for not living in the moment. I thought about canceling the one vacation I planned each year because my parents suddenly needed money. And I thought about Mom's expression when I said I was exhausted. Not empathy, not understanding, just disappointment. Like I had betrayed her trust, even though I was the only one who never turned my back on them. I walked into my room, sat on the edge of the bed, fingers tracing the edges of an old worn blanket, and the same question kept echoing in my head. What if they do lose the house? What if one day I get a call saying my parents have nowhere to live? Would I feel guilty? Oh, I don't. I'm the one who kept them from falling apart for nearly 10 years. That can't be erased because I stopped 6 months ago. But people forget easily. And guilt? It doesn't need a reason to creep in. I sighed. Maybe I wasn't the perfect daughter. Maybe I was too firm. But if I hadn't drawn the line, I'd have nothing left, except an empty wallet and a broken heart. I'm not telling this story to be praised. I'm not waiting for someone to say I was right. I just want to understand if anyone else has ever felt like me. If anyone else has been given the weight of an entire family. If anyone's ever been called cold just for saying no once. And if you're still reading this, I truly want to ask, did I do the right thing? I chose to live for myself. But is there a price I haven't seen yet? I don't know. But I hope you can give me a new perspective, a message, an honest word. Because sometimes, to move forward, I just need to know I'm not alone. Diana's story is a wake-up call for anyone who's ever been labeled the good child and burdened with responsibilities that were never theirs to carry. For years, she traded her freedom and peace of mind for loyalty to an idea of family that gave nothing back. But when she realized her worth was being drained, she found the courage to say enough and walk away. Her story isn't just about escape. It's a reminder that real love begins when we set clear boundaries. Do you think Diana was right to walk away from the cycle of imposed responsibility? Or should she have tried to compromise? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to follow the channel for more powerful stories about family, choices, and finding your voice.